I should have known something was wrong when Linda insisted on hosting Thanksgiving this year. In 15 years of marriage to my son Michael, she had never shown interest in family traditions, let alone volunteered to cook a turkey. "It's time for a change," she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Besides, you deserve a break, Margaret." The first red flag appeared when I arrived early to help with preparations, only to find the china cabinet empty. My mother's redwood collection, passed down through 3 generations, was conspicuously absent. "Oh, I packed those away," Linda said dismissively, arranging store-bought place settings. "They're so dated. We're going for a modern look this year." I bit my tongue, reminding myself that my son loved this woman. But throughout the morning, I noticed more missing pieces. The sterling silver candlesticks from my grandmother, the hand-carved serving bowls my late husband had brought from Italy. Each time I asked, Linda had an excuse. By afternoon, our modest family gathering had swelled to include several of Linda's friends, real estate agents, and antique dealers I had never met before. They clustered in corners, speaking in hushed tones and examining our family photos with unsettling interest. Michael seemed oblivious, watching football with his cousins while I helped Linda in the kitchen. She was oddly energetic, checking her phone constantly and arranging wine glasses with precise attention. "Everything okay?" I asked, watching her reorganize the silverware for the 3rd time. "Perfect," she chirped. "Just perfect. You know what they say, out with the old, in with the new." As everyone settled around the table, I noticed Linda had positioned herself at the head, my usual spot. Michael sat beside her, while I was relegated to the far end, surrounded by strangers. The prayer had barely finished when Linda stood, tapping her glass with a fork. "Before we start, I have an exciting announcement." My son looked up, surprise crossing his face. Clearly, this wasn't planned. "As you know, this house has been cluttered with old family items for years," Linda began, her voice carrying a theatrical lilt. "Well, I've decided it's time for a change. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm having a flash sale." Confused murmurs rippled through the guests. My niece Emma shot me a concerned look. "Everything must go," Linda continued, pulling out her phone. "Let's start with the basics. Margaret's mother's pearl necklace, originally valued at $5,000, but today only $2,500. And those antique Italian serving bowls? A steal at $800 each." "Linda," Michael interrupted, "what are you talking about?" She ignored him, scrolling through her phone. "Oh, and the piece de resistance, that gorgeous redwood collection, currently in mint condition and ready for immediate pickup. Starting bid $10,000. "Those aren't yours to sell," I said quietly, my hands shaking under the table. Linda's smile turned sharp. "Actually, Margaret, they are. You see, when Michael inherited this house, everything in it legally became our property. And since we're downsizing, these dusty old things need to go." "That's not true," Michael protested. "Mom's heirlooms were specifically excluded in the inheritance." "Were they?" Linda's eyes glittered. "Maybe you should check those papers again, darling." "Oh wait, they're probably with all those other important documents that mysteriously disappeared last month." The room fell silent. I reached into my purse, pulling out a small key I had acquired 3 days ago. "Looking for these papers, Linda?" Her smile faltered slightly. "What's that?" "The key to storage unit 247 at Safelock Storage on Mason Street," I said, watching her face pale. "The one rented under your maiden name." "How did you find it?" "Let's just say when my jewelry started disappearing piece by piece, I hired someone to follow you. Imagine my surprise when they reported back about your weekly visits to a storage facility." Linda's fingers tightened around her phone. "You had no right to protect my family's heritage, to investigate where my mother's wedding ring disappeared to." I stood slowly. "But the really interesting thing isn't what I found in that storage unit, Linda. It's what I found out about you while looking for it." Michael was staring at his wife, realization dawning on his face. "The missing documents, the jewelry. Linda, what have you done?" "Nothing," she snapped. "This is ridiculous. I'm simply trying to declutter our lives, create a fresh start." "By selling stolen family heirlooms to your antique dealer friends?" I gestured to her guests, who were suddenly very interested in their empty plates. "Or is this about covering your gambling debts?" The wine glass slipped from Linda's hand, shattering on the table, Red wine spread across the white tablecloth like blood. "What gambling debts?" Michael demanded. I pulled out my phone, displaying a series of screenshots. "The Riverside Casino seems to know you quite well, Linda. Or should I say, Lauren Mitchell. Interesting how you've been using your sister's identity for those weekly poker games." "You don't understand," Linda whispered, her composed facade cracking. "I had it under control. Just a few more sales, and I could fix everything." "Fix what?" Michael stood, his face ashen. "What exactly needs fixing, Linda?" I laid my phone on the table, the evidence clear on the screen. "Would you like to tell him about the second mortgage you took out on the house, or should I?" The room erupted in chaos as Linda lunged for my phone. But what she didn't know was that this was just the beginning. In that storage unit, buried beneath my family's stolen treasures, I had found something far more damaging, something that would shake our family to its core. And as I watched my daughter-in-law's perfectly constructed world begin to crumble, I knew this Thanksgiving would be remembered not for the turkey or the trimmings, but for the secrets that were about to be served. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of Linda's ragged breathing. Our guests sat frozen, forks suspended mid-air, watching the drama unfold like a Thanksgiving special gone horribly wrong. "The second mortgage," Michael repeated, his voice hollow. "When?" "3 months ago," I answered, pulling out more documents from my bag. "But that's not the worst part, is it, Linda?" She gripped the table's edge, knuckles white. "Don't." "The storage unit wasn't just full of our family heirlooms," I continued. "There were other items too. Jewelry, artwork, antiques, things that didn't belong to us. Things reported missing from other homes in the neighborhood." Several of Linda's antique dealer friends suddenly stood, making hasty excuses as they headed for the door. They knew exactly what I was talking about. "It started small," Linda said, her voice barely a whisper. "A piece here, a piece there. Rich people who wouldn't miss them. I needed to cover the losses." "So you became a fence," I finished, "using these so-called dealers to sell stolen goods. Our family heirlooms were just the beginning." Michael sank back into his chair, running his hands through his hair. "The country club memberships, the new car, the renovations, all from stolen property. I did it for us." Linda's voice rose hysterically. "To maintain our lifestyle, to keep up appearances. Do you know how hard it is to be perfect all the time?" I pulled out one final piece of paper, a bank statement. "Is that why you emptied Michael's inheritance account last week? All $180,000 of it." The color drained from my son's face. "What?" "I was going to win it back," Linda pleaded. "I had a system. The poker game tonight. I just needed one good hand." Our remaining guests began quietly excusing themselves, leaving their untouched turkey growing cold. Only my niece Emma stayed, her hand gripping her phone under the table. I caught her eye and nodded slightly. She was recording everything just as we planned. "But here's what I really want to know, Linda," I said, reaching into my bag one last time. "Why do you have a passport under the name Claire Bennett, with flights booked to the Cayman Islands for tomorrow morning?" Michael's head snapped up. "Tomorrow? But we're supposed to be meeting with the real estate agent about buying the lake house." "There is no lake house meeting," I said gently. "Linda was planning to disappear with everything she could sell, leaving you to deal with the debt and the legal consequences." "That's not true." Linda stood so abruptly her chair toppled backward. "I was protecting us. Those offshore accounts were for our future." "Our future?" Michael laughed bitterly. "You stole my inheritance, my family's treasures, and other people's property. You were planning to abandon me on Thanksgiving." "What future?" Linda's face transformed, her desperation morphing into something harder. "Fine. You want the truth. I never planned to stay. This whole marriage was a long con. Your perfect, successful son, the easy mark. A respected doctor with a trust fund and family money. It was too good to pass up." The truth hung in the air like smoke, choking us all. Michael stared at his wife of 15 years as if seeing her for the first time. "But I have one more card to play," Linda said, reaching for her own phone. "You might have found my storage unit, Margaret, but did you find the videos? The ones showing Michael accepting expensive gifts from pharmaceutical representatives? The ones that could end his medical career?" My son's face went pale. "Those gifts were declared." "Not all of them." Linda smiled coldly. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to let me walk out of here with whatever I can carry. or these videos go to the medical board. The room fell silent except for the sound of Emma's quiet typing on her phone. Linda hadn't noticed her young niece-in-law, hadn't realized that every word of her confession was being preserved. Actually, I said calmly, those videos were deleted from your cloud storage this morning. Amazing what a good private investigator can do with a password recovered from your storage unit notebook. Linda's phone clattered onto the table. You're bluffing. Am I? The same way you were bluffing about having evidence against Michael. The same way you've been bluffing your way through this marriage for 15 years. The sound of sirens in the distance made Linda's head whip toward the window. You didn't. I did. Emma spoke up, finally lowering her phone. The police have been listening to this entire conversation. They're especially interested in the stolen property ring you've been running. Linda made a dash for the door, but Michael was faster. He blocked her path, his doctor's hands gentle but firm as he grabbed her shoulders. Was any of it real? He asked, his voice breaking. Any part of our life together? For a moment, something like regret flickered across Linda's face. Then the mask slipped back into place. The only real thing was the money. It's always about the money. The police arrived moments later, led by Detective Sarah Chen, an old student of mine who had been instrumental in setting up this sting. As they led Linda away in handcuffs, she turned back one last time. The storage unit key, she said. How did you really find it? I smiled savely. You should have checked the nanny cam and the antique clock before you stole it. The one that caught you hiding the key in your jewelry box. As the police car pulled away, Michael stood in the doorway, watching 15 years of his life unravel. Emma worked with the officers, sending them her recording and statement. I began collecting the scattered remnants of our interrupted Thanksgiving dinner. Mom, Michael said finally, turning to me. I'm so sorry. About the heirlooms, about not seeing who she really was. I pulled my son into a hug, feeling him shake with suppressed sobs. We'll recover what we can. But the most important things, our real family, our love for each other, those can't be stolen or sold. Later that night, as we sat among the ruins of our Thanksgiving feast, Michael asked the question I had been dreading. How long did you know about who she really was? I poured us both another glass of wine. I had suspicions for months, but it wasn't until I found the storage unit that I could prove anything. I needed her to reveal herself, to show you who she really was, by letting her try to sell your heirlooms at Thanksgiving dinner. Sometimes, I said gently, you have to lose something precious to save something priceless. As we cleaned up the aftermath of our disastrous dinner, I thought about the empty china cabinet, the missing silver, the scattered pieces of our family history. We would recover what we could, but some things were gone forever. But looking at my son, hurt but unbowed, betrayed but not broken, I knew we'd saved what mattered most. Our family might be smaller now, but it was real, and that was worth more than all the heirlooms in the world. 6 months later, I stood in my son's kitchen, carefully unwrapping pieces of my mother's Wedgwood collection. The police had finally released the recovered items from evidence, and Detective Chen had personally delivered them that morning. Amazing how many pieces they found, Michael said, gently placing a teacup in the restored china cabinet. The storage unit was like a twisted museum. Not everything had been recovered. Some pieces had already been sold, scattered across the country through Linda's network of crook dealers. But we had gotten back more than we expected, including my mother's wedding ring, which now sat safely in a bank vault. The sentencing is tomorrow, I reminded him softly. Michael nodded, his hands stilling on a porcelain plate. 15 years, one for each year she pretended to love me. The investigation had revealed more than just stolen heirlooms. Linda, or whatever her real name was, had pulled similar cons in 3 other states, always targeting wealthy professionals with family money. My son wasn't her first victim, but the detective assured us he would be her last. Did you see this? Michael pulled out a newspaper clipping from his pocket. They found her real identity. Sarah Jenkins from Ohio. Ran away at 16, started running small scams. We were just her biggest score yet. I watched my son carefully, seeing the mix of pain and relief in his eyes. The past 6 months had been a journey of healing, of rebuilding not just our collection of family treasures, but our trust in ourselves and each other. You know what's ironic? He said, picking up another teacup. All those years she spent stealing these heirlooms, trying to turn our family history into quick cash. She never understood that their real value wasn't in money, I smiled, touching a familiar chip in one of the serving bowls. A battle scar from a Christmas dinner 20 years ago. Every piece tells a story. That's what she couldn't steal, Michael agreed. The memories, the stories, the real meaning of family. The doorbell rang and Emma walked in carrying a covered dish. After the dramatic Thanksgiving revelation, my niece had become a regular visitor, helping Michael navigate his newfound single life and joining us for weekly family dinners. I brought Mom's lasagna, she announced, setting it down. And look what I found at an estate sale. She pulled out a familiar-looking silver candlestick, not one of our stolen pieces, but similar to my grandmother's set. For the new collection, she said proudly, new memories, new stories. As we sat down to dinner, using a mix of recovered heirlooms and new pieces, I looked at our small but genuine family gathering. No more pretense, no more hidden agendas, no flash sales of family treasures. I got a call from the therapy group today, Michael said between bites. They want me to share our story, help other people who've been through similar situations. Are you ready for that? I asked. He nodded slowly. I think so. Linda took a lot from us, but she gave me one thing, the ability to spot what's real and what's not. Maybe I can help others do the same. Emma raised her glass, one of the recovered crystal pieces. To real family, she toasted, the kind you can't put a price tag on. As we clinked glasses, I looked around at our mismatched collection of old and new, at the empty spaces still waiting to be filled, at the faces of my real family gathered around the table. Some treasures had been lost, yes. But what we found was worth far more. Truth, strength, and the unshakable bond of genuine love. Linda's flash sale had failed, but it had revealed something priceless. The true value of family can't be measured in antiques or heirlooms, but in the stories we share and the love we choose to give freely, without price tags or conditions.